I think in this situation, it wasn't really understanding, it was more like looking what would benefit the case as opposed to what are we actually looking at? Well, like, what are we actually valuing? What is at play or at, in this discussion or this argument? And are you in over your head, right? Because you even asked at the beginning, you're like, okay, well, do you value startup companies? Startup companies are the most speculative, right? Especially if there's IP, especially if there's transfers. In my opinion, this case should have been vetted or understood a lot more at the beginning instead of getting these pie in the sky kind of ideas or numbers. And again, I mean, you could say, okay, he was boxed in, but at the end of the day, what was his professional due diligence to understand that that was not the appropriate thing to value, like.
And apparently in the husband's appellate brief, apparently the wife's financial expert didn't have any understanding of the businesses at issue. And so one argument is the husband saying my wildly successful post-divorce business is totally different. Wife saying it's totally the same. There is evidence of significant overlap and actually piggybacking from the marital business. And the reason why the wife does not win on those factual issues on appeal is back to that memorandum of agreement and simply divesting for zero value the intellectual property. It just cuts her up. And it allows the court to disregard, to not rely on any fact finding by the jury, because this is on appeal here. This was a contract dispute and statutes were at issue. All of those are questions of law. So there's no deference to the trial court. There's no deference to the jury. So this appellate court looked at this and concluded under the memorandum of agreement, it was impossible for the husband to have breached a fiduciary duty to a company regarding the software, that it was required to just divest for no value. That's really one of the key findings of the appeal. And so that goes back to the structure of the restructuring. The memorandum of agreement was not structured correctly. It really just, the appellate court is not wrong that simply giving away a company's intellectual property, if you're required to do it, then the managing member didn't damage the marital business. He divesting it was what he was supposed to do.
Right. And I think that the valuation issues surround like using it as a proxy. So valuing this company as a proxy because he benefited from both. But the nuance in that agreement was that she agreed with him that the IP would have been transferred out of the company, that she had ownership even from some sort of, an interest in.
And that is community property. She absolutely had a community property interest. But that's where even one thing I want to just point out is before agreeing to anything like this, everybody has to role play. What if the other side doesn't do what they're supposed to do? And there actually was an attempt to put a non-compete into the memorandum of agreement, and the husband disagrees and ultimately it comes out. But that's what he did. That's what the wife's arguing he did, is that he was competing with the marital business, took out, he actually technically licenses from the marital business to his wildly successful new business, this spreadsheet calculator. He uses the same software developer in India from the marital business for his new wildly successful business. The wife's due diligence, she finds that in the source code of the wildly successful new business is the name Greenlit, which was the marital business name. So its source code is in the new code. And that's why she's arguing the overlap. But the appellate court rejects all of that on the derivative claim because of this memorandum of agreement where the marital business was supposed to just have nothing software left for no value.
Yeah.
So, and the court points out no license, no sale. So just that simple difference, if the memorandum of agreement had required the software, even to the new company, to be licensed back or some kind of value. So the biggest problems for the wife's argument is the restructuring itself. If the marital business hadn't been restructured, then the software still would have been owned by the marital business and all of that. So this was a number of factors that really worked against her. And that's litigation. That's why you get the financial information. You get the business valuation information. And then what we've talked about, intellectual property legal advice, corporate structuring advice, but all of that was missing, and is what undercuts on appeal what was a $138 million verdict. Her share was $54 million. All of that gets reversed on appeal because it's the wrong company being valued.